up, everyone? Welcome back to the Miss Teen Crypto Show. I am your host, Randi Hipper, back at it on this fine day. Hanging with you guys. Bitcoin's pumping. What is happening? All I know is I'm here and I'm hanging out with you. So if you are feeling zesty vibes, please smash the likes, subscribe, share the stream out with friends so more people could learn about today's guest. And I'm so excited to hang out with him. His name is Crypto Jack. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Loving seeing some green candles for once. Everybody's happy.
I know, right? This has been a great time just to feel the euphoria of the crypto movement. People are starting to FOMO. Is the bear market over? Is this a fake out pump? What's going to happen? But what's important is that we're still here. People like you are still building, still charting every day and letting people know what's going on. How has this bear market been treating you, by the way?
It's gone fairly well for me. You know, my personal plan and side note to say, I'm a big fan of everybody building their own plan, whatever it is, and then sticking to your own plan. So for everyone, it's a little bit different. But for me personally, it was to start dollar cost averaging at about 25,000 after that moment, that big sell off to 25. So ever since then, I've had kind of regular purchases. And then we can kind of get more into the charts later, but there was a falling wedge, and any kind of chart pattern catches my eye more than anything else. And once we broke out of that, it was kind of game on for me, but we can get into that here in a minute.
Of course. I want to learn about you, Crypto Jack. You're a very interesting individual. I see you've been going to conferences, relentlessly grinding, and I respect your grind, but I want to learn more about you. So let's rewind a little bit to college Crypto Jack. What were you up to? What did you want to do?
I actually was on the path to be a doctor. So I was pre-med in college. That was my whole thing. And I actually switched gears and I finished with a science degree, a biomedical science degree. But I actually took a job with a financial institution and I stuck with them for for over 10 years. They ended up going public and I rode that wave. So I've spent time on Wall Street. I've dealt with people kind of all across the board at all different levels, billionaires and below. So I've kind of interacted with everybody, you know, not one myself yet, hopefully maybe one day, but I've enjoyed the ride. And then a few years after I graduated, I went back and I got an MBA as well. So I got an MBA in finance as well.
Wow.
But yeah. That's it.
You were pretty young getting into finance. What was the switch between medical and going into finance? What drew you in?
Yeah, so I actually just had a part-time job somewhere and I was just making enough to pay the bills. I got married in college as well. I married my high school sweetheart. Yeah. So we were kind of doing the math on, 7 years of med school and how that's going to work. She was going to be a teacher. I just wasn't sure it was all going to work. All of a sudden, the place where I worked part-time, they were purchased by a new group. And this new group had a lot of money behind them. And they said, hey, we need 4 or 5 people to stay with us from this business we're purchasing. We're going to carve out everybody else. We need you guys to stay and we'll take you up the ranks really quick. And you'll learn the ins and outs of finance very quickly. And they told us day one, we're going to go public one day. So you're going to get to be on that ride and everything. And so, you know, the wife and I talked about it, prayed about it. And eventually we said, okay, that's the right path. And the rest is history. So I've enjoyed what I've done.
Whoa. So you were how old getting into finance? Probably 20?
Yeah, 20. 20 is about right. And I didn't know what I was doing, right? But they over years, they kind of train you, you know, just to look at financial statements and understand debt service. Things you kind of do naturally anyway when you're paying your own house bills. I make this much money, I spend this much, and I have this much left over. Businesses are not all that much different on the finance side. It's just much bigger numbers. There's several more zeros out there, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases. So that actually went from, you know, understanding what their financial statements say, that kind of thing. And then it pivoted into, okay, well, what happens if 2 large financial institutions buy each other? You know, where can you save some money? How can we make this deal work, you know, for shareholders involved, stuff like that. So it got progressively more and more complicated, but it was a fun deal.
And when did you leave this job that you had with this particular company that went public?
So I left them a little less than a year ago after almost 15 years with them. They had a change in ownership and, you know, I had finished my ride, I'd finished my commitment, and now I'm just kind of working at a couple different places, still in finance. But it's a much different situation. There's a little bit more flexibility and I'm able to do more of the streaming, focus more on content. I've recently put kind of a renewed effort into my YouTube. If you ever look at my YouTube channel, you'll notice I have, let's say 20 videos total. And the first video was from 2 years ago. So very, very little effort up until recently, and now I'm trying to put more quality content out. I've had some guys join me who are very good at that kind of thing, building the videos and all that. So, and they're with me, they believe in me. So we'll see what happens.
I believe in you too, Jack. When you were in college and learning about finance, because I know you got a degree there, what were they teaching you in college? And was that any sort of significant to things you see playing in now or, in the financial just world in general?
Yeah, actually. So my focus, and everybody in this scene, they kind of focus on different things, right? But my whole thing is I want to not be caught off guard on a downtrend. I want to be able to take profit on, let's say Bitcoin goes on a face melting bull run for a year or two, and then show signs of a top in the charts. But perhaps, oftentimes the top lines up when people are very euphoric. This is when they're like calling grandma trying to get a loan, so they can add more. They want to mortgage their house to add more at the top, that kind of thing. When I was in college, I had a professor. This was like 2008, 2009, sometime in there. And the professor got a phone call in class. And I just remember his face went white. He was probably 70 to 75 years old. And he hung up and he looked at the class and he was just dead inside. And he said, my financial advisor tells me the markets have crashed and he did not manage the risk accordingly, and I will be working till I'm 98 years old, best case. And he was like, class dismissed. And so that stuck with me because I was like, I will not be this guy. I refuse, because this is somebody who trusted the quote experts and they let him down. And now his entire future, his family's future, everything is at risk because he trusted somebody else who was supposed to have known better or whatever, but they got completely rugged and they're done. So I have carried that with me anytime I've made any kind of money or invested it or whatever. I really wanted to understand the ins and outs of all of it. I wanted to understand, how do you know when it's too much? How do you know when it's the top? The other side of it is I'm not lucky. I go to Vegas, I lose. The end. It's not like I lose 51% of the time, like Vegas tries to make you think. I lose every time. So understanding that markets kind of ebb and flow in a certain way, and I'm not lucky. I really wanted to put my back into understanding what I'm getting into. And so once I got into crypto and Bitcoin and that kind of thing, it was no different than anything else, really.
I know you were in class during the 2008 crash then. How did you see like the financial world then compared to now? Because I feel like there's a lot of similarities between then and now.
It's very similar in a scary amount. Now, the thing about being in college at that time is I'm not really in the world of what's happening.
Exactly.
You're kind of reading about it after the fact and trying to dissect it and do a postmortem and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But now I'm in it and I can look at a chart and say, oh, this is what's happening. And then I'll go over and look at the news and I'm like, okay. Yeah, and there's the old Wall Street psychology chart where people are euphoric at the top and they say it's going to go to zero at the bottom, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's very true, especially once you get a feel for the charts and kind of where we are in the cycle. And then you go in and you read all the headlines from CNN and Fox and everybody else. And you're like, oh, this is really interesting how true that actually is.
Yeah, I think definitely there's FUD in crypto right now. All these like banks are like crypto's going to zero. It's a scam. Blah blah blah. Yeah. And how many times have we heard that before? China banning Bitcoin. How many times has that happened before? How many times has crypto been dead? And it never is. And even in the stock world, like that's a bloody mess. Mess.
Yeah, 100%.
People just got wrecked, especially in housing too. Like that market's crazy.
Yeah, I will add this. So since 2009, 2010, there has not been a pullback or a recession or pick your buzzword. There's not been anything to speak of. It's been a 10-year plus bull run. And so even the people from when I graduated to today, their mindset, they have been trained and rewarded to think, oh, there will be no recession. It's up only. Like even in retail, we joke about that in crypto, right? And that's kind of the meme. But they think that in the traditional market, like, no, go all in, just buy an index. It's going to go up.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's scary times because they might not be right one of these days. And it's going to be a lot of pain,
Yeah, I mean, people are just throwing money blind into the stock market. They're like, oh, this one looks good. It's guaranteed to make money. Oh, I'm just going to throw like whatever in the S&P and it's going to go up. Like that. It's not how it works. And I think even people have seen this year where, a lot of stock bulls were like, oh, we're going to the moon, everything's great. And then once they tell you everything's great is when it's not great. And that's when the bear market really set in for stocks. Because I watch both. Like, I see both. I see the narratives for both crypto and stocks. It's really funny to see the parallels, especially like when Bitcoin's going up. Oh, Bitcoin can offer solutions. Bitcoin might not be bad.
Blockchain.
Yeah,
buzzwords.
Yeah, how blockchain could save the world. And then all of a sudden, Bitcoin starts to go down, crypto collapse, crypto's dead. I mean, how do you navigate the type of fun, even in the stock market and in crypto, leading up and kind of growing up in the financial space like you have?
Yeah, I make it real simple, especially for my viewers. I say, look, 99% of the time, it's charts only for me. I don't care what the headlines are. I really don't. Now, there's times when, like, take FTT, for example, it fell from like $20 to like $0 or, $1, whatever it was, very quickly. Now, that's a news-driven thing. I'll never see that coming in the charts. So there's a give and take and all this kind of stuff. But the other side of the coin is, okay, taking those tail end, items that might happen, good or bad, you're going to hit the meat of what's happening in a move when it comes to, say, Bitcoin, when it comes to Ethereum. You got to remember, like last bear market, Ethereum spent time below $300. So I think it was between $300 and $80 just ping-ponging around for 700 days. And every time it went one way or the other, it was like, as it rallied off of 80 going up, Ethereum's the next best thing. And then it fell from 300. Oh, it's actually going to 0. And so you chopped yourself to death, and whatever funds, whatever capital you had set aside for the next bull market, you're doing your best. You're going to get yourself chopped up if you're leaning on those articles too much, or say you don't actually like zoom out enough to think in terms of years, but instead you try to day trade your way to millions. And that's how the majority of people lose their stack, in my opinion. Oh
my gosh, I love that you said that. When in doubt, zoom out on the yearly charts. 100%. I cannot say that enough. Enough. Because during the bear markets, you could see Bitcoin's gone down 80%. How many times? It's even gone down I think it was 2011 and went down 90 something percent. If someone could go confirm that for me. How many times has crypto been dead? Bitcoin's inevitable. When in doubt, zoom out on the yearly charts. And speaking of charts, Jack, when did you first lay your eyes on a chart? What was that like for you?
Yeah. Okay. So funny story. Before I tell you how I got into charts, I'll tell you how I first got into Bitcoin, because it's just directly related.
Go off, Jack.
I was in Counter-Strike Go, CS:GO, which is a video game where you run around shooting guns. They have things called skins, and it's basically whatever gun you use, it changes how they look depending on what you buy. It's like kind of the beta version of NFTs in a way, right? It's like you had sole ownership of that skin, nobody else had it, that kind of deal. I had an item that was very valuable, people wanted it, and I ended up selling it for like $30,000 or $40,000, something like that. Yeah, just ridiculous amounts of money. So I was real big in that trading scene, and at the end of my time there, maybe 3 or 4 years, I had this item and I sold it to somebody. Now the guy who bought it said, look, there's one condition. I buy in Bitcoin. And I said, now shortly before that, I had done a $10,000 deal with somebody for another skin, and through PayPal, and PayPal froze the transaction for 90 days and then reversed the transaction. I think it was like 30 days after that. So it was like 4 months of sitting around with $10,000 just like, where is it?
You got rugged.
I basically got rugged. Now I got it back in the end, but my buyer was like, no, screw you, dude. I'm out. Like, you're playing game. He thought I did something. Like I contacted PayPal. And so when this guy offered the solution of Bitcoin and talked to me about how we could do this deal, and it's instant, relatively instant, and nobody's going to say yes or no to it, I was interested. Like, that's when I was like, okay, you got my attention. Keep talking. So this is 2016. And here's the greatest mistake of my life. He said at the time it was like $500 or $600 per Bitcoin. And he sent me, it was 60 plus Bitcoin in that moment, right? I sold every one of them because I didn't know what I was doing, right? I wanted to go from an item to Bitcoin to cash.
Exactly.
It was just a medium of transfer.
Oh, my Lordy.
And I was like, hey, babe, I got all this money. And then, a month or two goes by and I check the Bitcoin chart again because somebody was like, hey, man, you really screwed up. I was like, what are you talking about? I go look, and it had doubled. It was over $1,000. I'm like, okay. And the rest is history. 2017 peak, it hit $20,000.
Oh my God, the feeling.
Start doing the math on that. I'm like, and I have not had money like that in my entire life. I've got kind of like had to grind for everything I have. So that's why, you know, for me, securing $30,000 or $40,000 was like, that is the key. But it's funny when you look at what it could have been, right? So paper gains missed, that kind of thing. But what I've learned through this space, I've got to meet a lot of cool people. I've met like Charlie Lee has been a sort of mentor to me, especially with all like some of my first. I have a lot of collectibles around. The first things I bought were from Charlie Lee directly, and the first thing he said to me is, "Don't put money into this stuff. Buy Bitcoin." He's like, "You will come back to me regretting this." And I was like, no. I understand this, but this is not to make a buck. It's like a trophy on my mantle. Like I want, and he's like, okay, as long as you understand it, as long as you, so it's cool that guys like him, even early on, were helping to give me perspective on all this. Right. And so I that like kind of warmed my heart. So 2017, I blew it. A guy by the name of Bitcoin Schmidtcoin. Bitcoin Schmidtcoin. He started posting on Reddit. This is back when like it was before crypto Twitter in 2017. Basically, everything was on Reddit essentially.
Yeah.
And he started talking about Wyckoff. Hey guys, I think 20K is the Pico top, and here's why. And he demonstrated it through charts. And he kept bringing up this term Wyckoff. So I reached out to him. He did a couple live streams, and we became friends. And like fast forward to today, we play games together and we hang out and stuff like that. But at the time, he could see something I couldn't see, and that really resonated with me, because I was just going to guess at what came next consistently until I figured it out, right? But he opened my eyes to this world of Wyckoff, and since then, that has been life changing to me. Ethereum, we'd mentioned that earlier. When that was in 700 days of effectively sideways, you can pull up a Wyckoff accumulation schematic and overlay it to the Ethereum chart, and it's like a cookie cutter mold. It is perfect.
Really?
So all of a sudden you can zoom out. Yes, and you can see, hold on, ADA did that in the last bear market. Hang on, NEO did that in the last bear market. Hang on, the total market cap, total 2, itself did that during, so all of a sudden you start seeing this everywhere, and it really opens your mind, and It tells you to load up. So the insinuation is, once they complete accumulation, you will not go back to that until the subsequent bear market. So 4 years from then, 5 years from then, whatever. So once we started breaking north of 300, that's kind of when I started streaming and first becoming relatively popular, was because I was saying, look, here's what's happened. Here's the schematic. It's pointing north. This is not just like I'm the bull guy. Like, this is what the charts are telling you. Take it serious. And so that on Twitch is what kind of started growing and drawing a following and that kind of thing. So, and since then we just manage it. And then when the tops, Wyckoff has a way to see the tops. When the tops come in, I try to be very vocal about that as well. And when the bottoms come in, I try to do the same. So that's my story. That's where I come from.
Wow. So you just found it on Reddit charts and you just started looking into it from there. That's pretty interesting. What were you doing to teach yourself the charts?
So at first, I think most people who get into like quote technical analysis, they always kind of do the same thing. They get way too many indicators on a chart, which I did this for like a year.
Yeah.
I had MACD, RSI, Stoch RSI, on and on and on. There was like this much chart and this much indicators below it,
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find that alpha, that sweet spot. I'm trying so hard to make a buck doing this, and it never really worked, especially in the bear market. Nothing seemed to work. And then it's like you said earlier, the when in doubt, zoom out, like that. When I started cutting away everything and I just started zooming out and using daily candles rather than minutes and hours, daily candle pattern stuff, understanding these concepts of like, okay, bottoms form accumulation, tops form distribution. Distribution oftentimes comes with the biggest actors in the space paying for articles on CNN, paying for articles on Fox News, and being like, hey man, this is the best thing in the world. Now's the time to buy. And meanwhile, they're on the phone with their broker like, hey, you sold, right? You saw that pump, right? You sold into that? So you kind of get an idea of like how to play the game. But there's this tax people talk about, and it's just, you play the game long enough, you lose enough, and you kind of get a feel for like, oh, okay, all right, you got me the first, few years, and now I'm going to make it back up because I know what's going on this time.
Yeah, I think charts are something that you really have to dedicate a long time to. And I'm trying to learn about charts myself, which is why I'm asking like how you started learning about charts is because I want to know. I want to know this new language. And I have been, just looking and seeing and things are making sense, but again, I'm not sure like what to do. Should I be studying candlestick patterns? Should I be looking at indicators? Should I be, like what should I be doing right now? What's your advice? Tell me.
So I think it's helpful for everybody to get a little bit of all of that stuff. So some people trade candlestick patterns really well, like, oh, that's a butterfly, that's a doji, like that. Okay, then I need to sell. I need to get, I need to hop in. I'm a huge fan of big patterns. You see an inverted head and shoulders. Don't get in the way of that. Like, don't think, oh, I'm going to short right as it's breaking up. Like if you see a head and shoulders, don't be the one to buy right as it comes back down. So learning things that are very common, you have falling wedges, rising wedges, head and shoulder patterns, that kind of stuff. I think those are very, very helpful because just like we saw in Bitcoin, we actually had if you look at the daily candles, Bitcoin just completed and broke out of a 200 plus day falling wedge.
This
is true. We're like 3 days into a breakout of a 200-day falling wedge. Now, the reason I emphasize 200 days, if this was a 7-day falling wedge, it would be like, well, okay, maybe one large actor can just paint the tape, so to speak, and then kind of like fake everything out. But 200 days on the largest crypto asset in the world, no shot. That's not a pot. So this is real market momentum, and it's breaking up. So I've had a bear on the back of my wall for a long time, like a face mask of a bear. And I just recently switched it out to a bull.
Because sheesh.
To me, this is a big deal. This is not to be faded. This is not to be, argued with. Could we have a pullback? Sure. But, the majority of the time, a falling wedge is a bullish reversal pattern on a macro big picture chart. So the fact that it did it and then broke out on high volume and it was 200 plus days, like you can start stacking things. And this is another big part of trading, especially if you want to get into like technical analysis. It's never about like one thing. It's never about, oh, a falling wedge broke. It's like, well, let's consider it also it was 200 days. Let's consider the volume. Let's consider, like you start layering things on and suddenly you're adding odds to your probability that this probably is a real move. And it gives you more confidence. Now, again, if you go back and you check CNN and Fox News and that kind of stuff, everyone's like, oh, this is probably a good time to sell, take profit. There's no shot this continues. And so that also is just another data point for you to consider, when you're looking at all this.
Do you mind showing some charts and
Sure.
showing us what you think is going on? And I know you mentioned the Wyckoff accumulation.
Yeah.
If you want to give me a visual of that would be awesome.
Don't get me started.
Please start away.
I love this stuff.
Rev up the engine. And while you guys are waiting for the alpha to be dropped, please smash the like, subscribe, share the stream out with friends because there's going to be some good information here and I'm very excited for it.
All right. So I think I'm sharing my screen, but please confirm.
You're all good. I see.
Okay.
Oh, it's labeled.
So, falling wedge. Oh yeah, I try to make it where it's easy to understand. So falling wedges do a couple of things. One is they have this sort of debate zone a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of time. And so this is why, going back to the start of this, back here, this is just kind of noise. Don't worry about the start of it per se, but really the start was when the market started selling off, when the market pumped to a point and rolled over. And next thing you know, we're out of any sort of like fake out areas. We're out. If I had volume pulled up, which I don't right here, I can pull it up in a minute. You'd see that this is very substantial volume, this breakout volume right here. And not only that, we're back above this horizontal level. If you trade charts all that much, it's very common to see a support turn into resistance, which is what we saw here. And the fact that it is now back above, this is a very important sign. This is a big deal. So now is when you start seeing people pull out the patterns of, oh, hey, I wonder if this is a sort of inverted head and shoulders. If let's say it came back, kind of retested this 18 level, 19 level. So the inverted head and shoulders guys get excited. Now, when you break above here, let me kind of live live show you what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. So the point I'm trying to make is I am bullish because of a thing that's happening right now. There's other schools of trading that may soon join in to the fray. So here's a sort of inverted shoulders potentially, right? And so there are.
Oh no. I think he froze. No.
Is that are we back? Can we hear?
I can hear you, but I think your picture's frozen. But I see your charts. Oh no.
Big breakup. Hold on, I think I can fix it. Sorry, I don't know what happened.
It's okay. Zoom, man. This stuff is
All right,
crazy.
I'm gonna stop the share for a second, and I'm gonna stop the share and see if I can fix it really quick.
If you want to, like, you could leave the meeting and rejoin if you need.
Okay, what about? Am I back? Can you hear that?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Okay. 2 seconds. Sorry about that.
You're all good. Guys, this is great. I love charts. I love alpha. And yeah, I think, let me look at the poll you guys just put up. Okay, live look at the poll. Oh, wait, you're back. 78% of the chat is bullish, by the way.
Oh, okay. I'm selling it all. I'm selling everything.
Later, guys. Top signal. Okay.
Okay, so it looked like everything started breaking when I was drawing on the chart. So let me try to just click through some prepared things, and then maybe that will save us from breaking down again. So let's do share screen, share. Okay, sorry about that.
You're all good.
So we have a breakout, and potentially nice things could happen with this breakout. There's just a lot of bullish momentum. So I'm glad the chat is bullish. You know, one quick thing to point out is there's a lot of people who are not bullish and they're fading this, and it's kind of comical because, you know, they're saying, oh no, this is too much of a rally. And you look in hindsight, like this is really nothing in comparison to all this volatility we've had, you know, leading up to this moment. So just because we have a few days of up, I don't necessarily think that that's the end of it all. So a couple of the things I wanted to point out, you know, since the all-time high, we've kind of been in down only for 428 days.
Pretty much.
So this is a long, grueling bear market. And so, yeah, in chat, like I want you guys to hear this too. One of the first things I was saying when we started this off, when we were just kind of off, was that I really respect the grind that you have, that you're out here in the bear market in the face of this. This is not fun. People don't like this. People like want to blame you, or, you know, like, oh, it's influencers' fault or whatever. And, you know, you got to kind of step out in front of the target range and take the shots they throw at you. But
Thank you.
This has sucked. We finally are getting a little bit of relief. Now, there's some other stuff really interesting going on with like the Dixie. The Dixie is the strength of the dollar. Historically, as the dollar goes up, you know, crypto seems to fall. As the dollar falls, crypto seems to do okay. So we have this very, you know, massive breakdown on the Dixie. I've overlaid that with what's called an Eiffel Tower chart pattern. Ooh. And perhaps we see this play out, perhaps we don't. But this is actually a really common theme across the legacy markets. There's a lot of things that went just straight up in 2020 or 2021, and they've returned back to certain levels to consolidate. So that is something that I found very interesting. But specifically for Bitcoin, let me tell you what I'm like keeping my eye on. So I'm going to take you back to 2018 into 2019.
Cool.
And what I've pulled up here is an indicator known as pivots. Now, pivots are these mathematical levels that are added to a chart on the 1st of January. Okay, so they're not adjusted in any way. It pops onto the chart January 1, and it you know is extracted all the way to December 31st, and that's it. It's there. It stays. So let's look at what price did in this year. This is 2019, which is the year before the halving. The halving is marked by this orange line. So in the year before the halving, price came down to its all-time low. It's like bear market low, rallied up,
and eventually found consolidation at this, what's known as the R1. It's like an extension target to the pivot. The pivot is this, and then there's an extension level to this. Now, after it broke up, it eventually came down and there's more to the story, but let's just focus on what happened here. We had this bear market low, a rally up, and it broke through the pivot and consolidated at the R1 before later selling off. Here's how we look today. Here's how these pivots are sitting. So here we are, again, the year before the halving. We have just come off our bear market lows. We have now this, if I updated this chart, we would be up in here, right? Because we're up at this $21,000 level.
Yes.
And the first pivot is at 24,000. The extension target, let's say we blow through that, is all the way at 33. So there's a very real possibility that the charts are trying to suggest, hey, go long at 18 because now we know it's real, it's not a fake, and be ready to take some profit somewhere either at 24 if that's where the market slows down, or up here at this 33 level. But pay attention and be aware. And that does two things. One, it gives us a little bit of a relief rally target. Now we kind of know where to look. But number two, it keeps us from getting too euphoric, which is the other side of the coin that I'm sure you're well familiar with, especially as you interact with people. Let's say we do get to 30. Are you kidding me? People are going to be out of their mind. This is it. 100K next, 100K by the end of the year. Like, this is when you have these conversations. But if we go back and just take a moment to look at what happened in back here, this was very painful. Now, this was COVID, and you could argue, maybe that will happen again, maybe it won't, whatever. But the punchline is, if all you did was long the breakout and then take some profit during this consolidation, you basically won. Even if you came back and rebought at the pivot, which was, imagine selling at 33 and buying back at 24 today. That's the equivalent. So lots of reasons to be looking up. I'm always going to be erring on the side of caution to say, please don't get too, over leveraged, too excited, too much thinking that we're going to go to the moon. There's an old saying, sell in May and walk away. And that's effectively what happened in here. And I think that would be very interesting to see, both like a recession kind of brew in the traditional markets. I know you said you watch that a lot. I'm sure you're keeping tabs on, what interest rates are doing and all that kind of stuff. And it'd be very interesting to see kind of like a cooling off period going into the end of the year, and then perhaps things get more bullish, leading into the start of next year. But
so
that's my 2 cents.
So do you think this pump is over? Do you think so, or you do think we do have this room to go up from here?
I do. I think so. Me personally, I am exposed spot long for the first time since 60K. That's when I first got out for, again, Wyckoff is offered some things to look at. And so 60K, I was out. There's reasons I didn't believe the 45K, there was a moment when it started to break out and then everything kind of gave way. But now finally, this looks like the real deal. It looks like the real deal. I'm very excited. I haven't been excited in probably 3 years like this. I love it.
Yay! I'm happy you're excited. That's great. I mean, listen, we need some green. We deserve it after such a torturous market and all these bad actors being filtered out. I mean, being in this space for so long, how do you feel about it? And do you think that a lot of you know what? I'll go after you answer this question. I'll ask the next one.
Okay. How do I feel about being in the market this long?
Yeah, and just how do you think you feel up to this point? Like, out of all the years that you've been in this, how do you feel at this point?
I feel like there's more opportunity now than there perhaps ever was, and let me explain why. This will be my third bull market that I've been a part of, and really the first that I really understand what's going on, or at least feel like pretend to myself that I understand what's going on. Imagine you're interested in Doge and you just heard about it last year and you bought Doge at 75 cents. And now you wake up and it's 10 cents or 8 cents today. You just lost a ton of money. Now here's the flip side. Imagine you understood the charts and you knew not to buy at 75 cents and you waited for 8 cents and then you invested. See, it's all this perspective. If all you have is a discipline to wait and just to sit out, or even just to not take a trade, I'm not telling you to short it to zero, but at least just wait for the right conditions. You can make life-changing money and add a zero to your net worth, cycle after cycle. It's almost like an infinite money glitch. But the only way you do that is not getting caught up in the hype, not being the guy who buys the top. Because you got to remember, when you're buying the top, what you're really doing is cashing out somebody who bought the prior bottom. Like it's an exchange, and the whales who were telling you, nah, it's trash, you should sell it all. They were the ones buying it a year ago.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so anyway, I feel like there's a lot of opportunity. And now you have Robinhood, you got Ameritrade, you got all these guys who are like, they've built the systems. I was even on a phone call with just randomly with one of the core processors of a bank. It's a core processor that works with a third of all banks in the nation. Okay. And I'm just listening. I'm a fly on the wall. It's not something I'm interacting with. And they tell the guys on the other end of the call, they go, oh, by the way, we have prepared the piping, the back end, to connect the major crypto accounts to the bank, the software that the bank runs on, so that, and they're telling us this, right? And nobody knows who I am. They don't know I'm Crypto Jack or whatever. I'm just a nobody. And they're like, just so you know, so eventually you'll be able to walk into a bank and ask them what your crypto balance is, and the bank can give you a 50% loan to value loan on your, just like they do for stocks.
Yeah.
So and they have a way to like push a button and a message gets through to Coinbase or Gemini or whoever custodies it, and they say, hey, don't allow this to go anywhere because the bank just gave a loan out on it. And they'll just be like, all right, got it. It's locked. It's padlocked now. Nobody can move it. But it's like an arranged thing. This is the future we're heading toward.
Wow.
And so when I see things down 80, 90%, I'm like Scrooge McDuck, starting to have dollar signs in my eyes, because the opportunities are huge here.
Exactly. Wow. Alpha. Yes. Because even JP Morgan, who's been flooding Bitcoin more than anybody, actually was firing people for getting involved with Bitcoin, now has a Bitcoin team. He's been buying Bitcoin since God knows how long. And his patent just got approved in November for his crypto wallet, which he's been waiting 2 years for. So he put this in 2 years ago. JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, all of them. They put this in 2 years ago. It just got approved recently. So it tells you something. Yeah. I was putting it on my show, the documents, everything. So the big institutions are coming into crypto, MasterCard, HSBC. They're all involved in like the CBDC pilot that the New York Fed is doing. Then MasterCard and like all these other people are like actually filing for, trademarks and copyrights for NFTs, NFT marketplaces. Like HSBC was doing that. And I think it was another financial institution that did that recently as well. So big money, like you said, is coming into crypto. The opportunity is definitely there. And speaking of opportunity, do you think that a lot of maybe future negative events are already priced in? Because when FTX went down, the effect on Bitcoin price wasn't as bad as people expected it to be, especially if that would have happened earlier in the bear market. Do you feel the same, that if one big thing happens again, that maybe it won't have that much of an effect on price, especially because you're more of a chart over a news person anyway?
Yeah. So I guess the best way for me to say it is I hope that's what we see. See, anytime the market has a big rotation, and I mean like from going straight north, like to the moon, and then things start to crater the other way, or whether we bottom, we start going north, you actually want to see some big, scary, bearish news. And I mean stuff like China bans Bitcoin level. You want to see, it's like a litmus test. And it's like, all right, how many weak hands are still in the market? And you can actually watch and see, okay, we made new lows. Crap, there's still a lot of weak hands in this market. Or alternatively, like, we didn't even make a low. We didn't even make a low from last week. Like, okay, like this looks good. Keep on sending those bad news, because it's giving us opportunities for better entries, but it's not breaking the structure of this uptrend that we see. So there's this kind of like nice balance. Now, one thing I will say, I feel like it's worth noting, because we're seeing a lot of alts just basically V bottom and go north. V bottoms are a rarity. They almost never happen. So the fact that you see stuff like Sol is a great example, almost 100% up or more, I forget what it is in, a month. There's a number of these alts that are very high double-digit percentages up from their lows. As for somebody who studies charts, this never happens where that is continuous. What's more likely to happen is eventually it hits some kind of breaking point. There's more people ready to take profit than to go long, like fresh batches of people. And you'll see this kind of roll over and come back, maybe at double bottoms, coming down to an equal bottom from before and then going back up. Maybe it's just goes about halfway down and then rolls back to the north. It doesn't really matter what it does, but you need these kind of macro sell-off events. And that's why I think there's really something to, when I look at Bitcoin, I look at those pivot levels. It makes a lot of sense to say, I bet we do go north for a little bit more, north and sideways at least. And then we kind of across the board sell off, maybe during this sell in May and walk away. Perhaps that's like where it takes place. Who knows? I don't know. But it would make a lot of sense to me to see a lot of these gains given back. The final batch of people like, crap, I knew it was a scam. I should have sold it all. And really they're selling the bottom, like the Pico bottom. And then we go north. When I talk about Wyckoff, almost every Wyckoff schematic has multiple touches of the lows over a broad period of time, 6 to 8 months, sometimes a year, or even break the lows and then come back and go north. So these are things that you would expect. And all that to say, things are going north and I love it and it's great, but don't feel that FOMO, because this is what gets people chopped to death. If you're buying Sol at $30 and then you turn around tomorrow and it's back at 10, you're going to feel really bad. You're going to feel that impulse to be like, oh, I should just sell while I can. And then it bottoms and it goes back north again and you feel like an idiot, so just little advice.
And that's where kind of like your ego plays in. And I want you just to touch on really quick. How do you control the ego? How do you say, hey, I have to be level headed? Because even someone in the chat threw it in there before and said, you're one of the most level headed people in crypto. How do you keep that level headedness and how do you keep yourself from totally degenning in the market?
Honestly, it's because of the years when I didn't do that. I failed over and over and over. And it's like a meme. And I tell my community this a lot too. I say the second you start screenshotting your gains, you take profit. Yes. You take profit. When you're sending you're sending it to the boys or your girlfriend or your wife or whatever, you're done, homie. You're out. Take that profit, walk away. Because that is a sign of euphoria in yourself. And you've got this is the discipline. This is what's separate. Only 1% of traders are successful. And you got to swallow that pill that you're probably not special. I'm talking to myself. And so the only alpha that I have here is to zoom out, to minimize my margin usage where things can get me out of my control. Spot Bitcoin, you can sit on that for years, right? And then you're not wrong. You were just a little early. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got to learn these mechanics of how do I stop losing? Because losing your stack is like, if you lost $20,000 today, let's say that's a Bitcoin, right? Or 21,000, whatever it is. But a year from now, maybe that's 100 grand. A year and a half from now, maybe that's 200 grand. So when you're thinking of terms of, well, it's just $5,000. Who cares if I YOLO it away on a margin trade? No, dude, you got to times 10 that for a year and a half, 2 years from now. You're throwing away your family's money or, a new car. Wow. So that's something that I really try to encourage. And it's not very sexy, especially during euphoria when I'm like, all right, take profit, because I'm just trying to help people forecast ahead and control their own emotions, because the only alpha you're going to have in this game is if you have a little bit of discipline and you're able to control yourself.
Discipline, self-control, take your emotions out of it, my friends. That is great. That is great. And before I ask the next question, please guys, smash the likes. I see so many people here. Please be my friend. Show some love. Say hi in the chat and smash the likes. Thank you so much. Crypto Jack, you're amazing. You really are. You're a great person. And I know you're focused on creating content. Where can everyone find you? How often do you go live? And what is one message you would like to share with the chat? It could be about anything. It could be about Bitcoin. It could be about trading. It could be about college. Whatever you feel, whatever you want to talk about, spread that message. Bless us with your message.
Okay. All right. So I guess I'm most active on Twitter, where I'm at CryptoJack Live. That's also my YouTube account. I'm trying. Again, I'm kind of grassroots only. I don't really have a team. I have a crew of day ones that have been with me since the beginning, and they help do my videos and stuff like that. But I don't pay a team or anything like that. So you can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on YouTube. I started a TikTok. I don't know that I'd even want to shill it yet, but if you find it, fine. But I need to build that up. I need to grow that a little bit more.
We'll follow each other.
Yeah, there you go. And I primarily stream charts on Twitch Sunday and Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Central. So I have this little window of time for about 2 hours. I do have a wife, I have kids, I have family, I have older parents that need help and stuff like that. So I have this little window that I'm like, all right, this is when I do charts. And if anybody can make it, great. And it's been funny because early on, like in 2020, that was 4 people. And then it hit like 700 concurrent at one point. And to me, that was like, oh my gosh, who am I? This is crazy.
That's amazing.
And bear market, we get maybe 150 to 200, something like that. So I feel very blessed. I'm happy to be here. As far as messages go, I really just have one, and it's stick to the plan. And the whole thing about that is you need to foresee what might happen and develop a plan for that accordingly, up or down, and not be surprised when it happens. And this is what helps with the self-control side of it, is if you're at 60K and you're like, okay, what's the worst case? Well, there's a horizontal at 30. There's a bunch of crap below that. Maybe we break below 30. That already you're conditioning yourself for a big sell-off, and it's not going to panic you, make you sell. And even if you have long-term holds, you're like, hey, this was part of my plan. I knew it was going to go to 30. You're saying that to yourself, right?
Yeah.
Not just me promoting myself. So anyway, that'd be my really only takeaway. By the way, real quick, because you said back when we talked about things that have changed, you said that you had noticed some things that potentially had changed, or how this cycle was, that we're leading into might be different from the ones before. And you said you had a thought or two, and I'd love to hear that as well.
Yeah, I just have a lot of thoughts, being that there, different money coming into crypto. The institutions, especially when I first started in crypto, speaking in terms of social media in 2020, there were no big institutions, no cool celebrities in crypto. Now you have celebrities in crypto, you have big money coming into crypto, getting news coverage everywhere. El Salvador, a whole country using Bitcoin as legal tender. I mean, how is this something you could ignore, right? Bitcoin is inevitable. It's all inevitable, especially Gen Z. Once Gen Z comes into crypto, it's going to be so different. And that's what I was ranting about for 10 minutes on my show this morning for anyone that was there. Definitely, I'm just so bullish on this space. And I think so much is going to come from this year, truly. And I think a lot came from 2022 too. I think, we should stay bullish because of what happened in 2022, that there was a price drop and we filtered out all these bad actors, and we're going to continue to do that. But in order for crypto to go mainstream, you have to filter out these bad actors. So
agreed.
That's the way I feel.
And that will probably happen again.
Absolutely.
And the more that is especially more directed to your audience, but if this was your first cycle, then you're going to kind of go into the next one okay, people are kind of scummy and they suck. And there's also this funny thing where you'll see the next coin go from $1 to $20, and you'll be like, hey, maybe you want to take a little profit. And the people who believe in it will tell you, no, you're stupid. And then it goes from $20 to $200, and nobody wants to listen to you, right? Sol did that. Sol was $1 and went to over $200. So there's always that thing, right? There's always the next thing. So there is such a thing as euphoria. There's things you'll never see coming. But if you're in, the only way you're going to lose is if you're not in the space. That's how I see it. This is where the future's headed. Banks are even, like we were talking about earlier, changing their whole perspective on things, and they don't do anything different. Yeah. And here they are kind of oh, let's see if we can keep up with crypto. So I'm excited for the future. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm happy to be here and honored to be here.
I'm happy you're here too. I'm happy to be here. I think we all should be happy to be a part of this space and be connecting with one another. Me and you hanging here, everyone talking in the audience. And, I was peeping the chat the entire time as usual. So thank you, Jack, for coming. And thank you for friends that are watching. And just thank you for Bitcoin. Thank you, Satoshi, for giving us this opportunity, bringing us all together for a movement about self-sovereignty, freedom, decentralization, and some beautiful things. Thank you again, Jack. Please follow him. All of his links are in the live chat and in the description. Please give Jack support. Give him love because he's amazing. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for coming. I really do appreciate you guys so much. We're going to have a great round of shows this week between the Daily Zest, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, tomorrow. 12 p.m. Eastern, and some really cool guests. You guys are going to want to stick around, so please be cool, be zesty, drop a like, subscribe, share the stream out with friends, say goodbye in the chat, show some love, and comment after this show is over. Where do you see Bitcoin going? Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Are you an angry bear? Let us know. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, and as always, stay zesty.
You.
Peace.
Bye, guys.